responsible for this museum being here, therefore, as a consequence, our being here. Rabbi David Blumenfeld, Rabbi Dr. David Blumenfeld, served with distinction as a rabbi for many years on the North Shore of Long Island, and then found his life's real mission to head the Holocaust Commission, formed by Mayor Koch. And it was that commission that ultimately negotiated the ground lease for this place and created the museum. Then they created the fundraising, built the museum, and we're here today because of Rabbi Blumenfeld's work. Manny Beckier, who some of you might know, who's here, is a great shotsman. When I told Manny heads the Kelsey Society, that we were looking for a rabbi to officiate, he immediately says, I have the man. It's Rabbi Blumenfeld, who's the rabbi of the Kelsey Society, who followed his father's footsteps, who had been the original rabbi of the Kelsey Society. And Rabbi Blumenfeld has been just an absolute delight to work with. He's a wonderful man, and I now turn the floor over to the rabbi.
We commence now with the memorial service, the Ashkara. Please rise for the opening prayer. Ribon Kol Olamim, Master of the universe, in whose hands are the souls of the living and the dead, we dedicate this solemn gathering to the sacred memory of the 6 million Kedoshim who were murdered by the Nazis during the Holocaust. At this Haskara memorial ceremony, we reaffirm our resolution never to forget, never be indifferent to the tragic and brutal atrocities that were suffered by them. May we remember, never forget, the burning synagogues, the ominous brown shirts, the jackboots, and the yellow stars of day. May we remember and never forget the frightful arrests at midnight, the uprooting of millions from their ancestral soil, and the violent tearing apart of families. May we remember and never forget the disease-ridden ghettos, the starvation, the terrible fear, and the lingering fate throughout the ordeal. May we remember and never forget the thick smoke that arose from Auschwitz, from Dachau, from Buchenwald, and the overwhelming stench of death. Yes, we will remember, O Lord, and we will never forget. And so we ask that the sacredness and solemnity of this hour bring to our minds and to our hearts the deep resolve that they did not die in vain, but that their faith and their dreams live on in us and in our children. May their souls be bound up in the bond of life, and may their sacred memory be an ever-present to all who seek enduring peace for all humankind. And let all assembled at this sacred occasion say Amen. Amen. Please be seated. No doubt, probably everyone who is here today has heard of Elie Wiesel. He, of course, had many enduring accomplishments. One of those accomplishments, it should be noted, was his active participation in the establishment of this very facility in which we find ourselves, the Museum of Jewish Heritage. Back then, in those days, in my capacity as the founding director of the New York Holocaust Memorial Commission that founded this museum, I was privileged to hear him speak often. And today, on this very special occasion, I would like to share one of his personal stories with you that I find particularly relevant to us as we gather here. It was back in the days of the Soviet Union when he was in the process of writing his book, Jews of Silence, that he was sent by Israel's Haaretz publication to the Soviet Union to observe the Jewish community of Moscow during the days of, well, Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. What was the Jewish community like in Moscow under the Soviet regime? He relates that he prayed along with the Jews in the Grand Synagogue in Moscow on Rosh Hashanah, and then again he had joined them on Yom Kippur. He carefully observed the mood of the community. Towards the end of Yom Kippur, a Russian Jew had been praying alongside of him and asked why he had come to the Soviet Union. And he said to him, "I've come to observe the community here under the Soviet." And he said, the Russian Jew said to him, "You know, it's good that you came during Yom HaNarim for the high holidays. But Mr. Wiesel, if you really, really want to understand the Jewish community here, you should return to this synagogue on the holiday of Simchas Torah, which is coming up." Simchas Torah, compared to Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. Nonetheless, he decided, look, maybe there's something to it. So Wiesel decided to stay until Simchat Torah, as suggested. Well, on Simchat Torah, he arrived at the square in front of the synagogue. And it was totally crowded with people. And on the roofs of the square where they had gathered, there were spotlights that were manned by the Soviet police. Well, out came the toys, down the stairs, and the people grabbed the toys and they started dancing together. What a joyous scene. It went on for some time when suddenly, Elie Wiesel reports, there was a strident voice which came from a loudspeaker somewhere of the Soviet police who bellowed out, "Jews, in 10 minutes you are to disperse and end your activity." The Jewish crowd shrugged his shoulders and they continued to dance with the toys on Simchas Torah. They did so even with greater vigor and fervor. And after 10 minutes had passed, once again, loudspeakers blared again. "You are to end the activity immediately now." Unfazed by the threatening announcement, the people continued to dance enthusiastically and to sing at the very top of their lungs. And then, suddenly, snap, the spotlights went out, and a heavy darkness descended upon that square of Jews on Simchat Torah. Well, everybody stood rooted to their spot in the pitch dark. One could hear what sounded like a soft moaning, the kind of moaning that you would hear in the cattle cars of people taken to their death. That kind of moaning and sadness and groaning ascended from the crowd. But do you know, after several minutes of quiet in the dark, all of a sudden, gathering the Jews began to sing and dance like they never danced before, with greater fervor with their precious Torah. And Elie Wiesel said that in his life, he had never witnessed such a ruach, such a sense of fervor. They celebrated on and on that night, despite the deep darkness that had been forced upon them. Well, Elie Wiesel, in relating this story, went on to make this point. And we who have gathered here for this special occasion might note that a very relevant message may be found in that story for us also. In a way, we too are steeped in a form of darkness that seems to be growing with greater intensity. What we see is a darkness that is beginning to spread over the world and that is causing many a sense of serious concern. Basically, I'm referring to the growing concern over the dangers that face the world and humankind. And what are they? Concern, darkness, climate change, nuclear brinksmanship, cyber warfare, disease, famine, terrorism, mass killings, the opiate crisis, growing suicides among our young, and so many other fearful manifestations are present in our time. And added to all of those fears is one further dangerous concern. One concern, those concerns concern us all right, but there's one concern that affects us who are here today, and in particular for the Jewish people. In our time, we see and we are concerned deeply about the rising spread of anti-Semitism globally. Yes, in almost disbelief, we see that it has returned and reared its ugly head. Where? In Europe. Of all places in Europe. On May 24th, the Jewish cemetery was vandalized in the city of Bordeaux, France. On May 26th, Germany's government anti-Semitism commissioner warned that Jewish men should not wear a kippah in public. On May 28th, the United Kingdom's National Human Rights Institution launched a formal investigation into the anti-Semitism within the Labour Party, Winston Churchill's party in England. The evidence of rising anti-Semitism in Europe has become impossible for us to ignore. And so, we are concerned who are here today. So too, in our own beloved country, the United States of America, we are witnessing open manifestations of anti-Semitism, which culminated recently in the murder of Jews in a Pittsburgh synagogue. How do we dissipate the darkness of hatred and anti-Semitism that is growing daily around us? The answer is that the indomitable spirit that was demonstrated by our ancestors, by those who danced with the Torah in front of that Moscow synagogue, will light the way for us. We don't need spotlights to tell us where to go. We have a Jewish neshama. We are a Jewish nation. How do we dissipate the darkness that is fast growing around us? It is our duty to educate people how not to hate, period, not to hate. And I'm not talking about not to hate Jews, not to hate any diverse group in this diverse society. And we love this country very dearly. Many of us, including myself, have served in the military because we love this country. And so it is that we don't hate any group in our diverse society. For even as we stand up for our Jewish brethren and sisters in the time of their need, well, we're going to stand up for people who are oppressed and seek a safe haven to build a good life and pass that Statue of Liberty out there and come to America. Or come in any way that they come. And so, my friends, for that very reason, we are proud to gather here in this very facility with Jack Kliger as the head of the facility. We're so proud to be here at the Museum of Jewish Heritage. You know, it's not a religious institution. On purpose. On purpose, it's not a religious institution. But you know what? We might call this place a temple of tolerance and understanding. It teaches all who enter these portals the powerful lesson of the Holocaust. It teaches us that hatred of others, what it can do. It teaches us how the Jewish people rose out of the ashes of the Shoah to help build the ancient homeland of the Jewish people, Eretz Yisrael, which cannot be denied by anybody. Our nation is rebirth, reborn, and this institution supports that rebirth. We come out of the darkness. It teaches us how survivors, as those who are sitting here will be lighting these 6 candles, it teaches us how they came here and they built such wonderful lives with families. That's what it teaches us. The 2nd and 3rd generation of offspring of survivors, they're going to carry on, and that's what this 2nd generation organization is, the aspiration of these survivors, and make the expression never again a reality for all time. And finally, it teaches us to pray for world peace. The world will come out of its dark shadows of today's strife into a world filled with harmony and peace. We'll say Shalom Yom Yah say Shalom Aleinu. Ya'akol Yisrael. Ya'akol ha'umot olam. The God who makes peace in the heavens, grant peace unto us, unto Israel, and unto all humankind. Let us all say. Amen. At this time, we'll Jerry to introduce the next part of our program.